Now we'll continue with performing the other type of data transformation like merging and appending data sets. So what is merging and what is appending? What is the difference between these two? Even in SQL query, we can do the same thing. We can do merging and appending. You can do it using SQL query. First of all, what is the difference between these two? When we can use merge, when we can do append? I think the PowerPoint. Yeah, merging means adding columns. Okay, data profiling. Appending means adding rows. So tell me what scenario you perform appending. What scenario, Prabhat? Very good. Prabhat answered correctly. So merging means joining the values. Appending means some headers, same headers. What do you mean? No, I'm not asking about the limitation. What kind of scenario you can perform append? You performed the append. What scenario that used you performed the merge operations? One second. Even today we are working some calls from office. Okay, I just answered. Okay, merging, and first we will try to understand what exactly the appending is all about. In case of adding new employees or customer details, new employees or customer details. Okay, yeah. So in case of adding new employees or customers details, yeah, but you can add the new customers and new employees by scheduling the data refresh, right? Why you need append? Pravath answered very good. So okay, see, he has given a a good thing here. See, what he says is, for example, customers, new customers. If any new customers they come here, and new employees when they come here, what he says is we can append it. So already I have, let's my customer dimension table is there. Dimension table is there. In the customer dimension table, what we did, let's say I have already 100K customers are there. We have loaded it. So today is 11 December. Today, let's say 20 customers, new customers came, they purchased something in the source system. In the source system also we have customer table. Okay, what we are doing is, in the source system, this is OLTP, which is nothing but your e-commerce database. Okay, new customers, 20 new customers, they ordered the product. These 20 new customers are completely new one. They never ordered in the past. Today only they ordered it. So this customer, you need to load it here. So what we are doing is, the customer dimension is we already imported this data. Okay, imported this data. Okay, and now what we do is we just want to extract only the newly, we want to include only the newly purchased 20 customers into our existing data. For this, what we are doing, since I've used the import mode first time to load the 100,000 customers, now what would we schedule the import? What it does is the incremental data refresh. This gives rise to this thing, incremental data refresh. So what this customer dimension we do is, since we have scheduled the incremental data refresh, it automatically goes and checks, okay, the newly added 20 customers, you can refresh it in my customer dimension table in order to keep this customer data up to date. It's 100K plus 20. If you add 20 customers along with 100K, the customer dimension table will have up-to-date information about your customer. Okay, in this case, we are just adding 20. If you say append is different. See, append is the same thing. For example, The while explaining the folder connector, I told you this one, right? So every day data is, let's say in January, 31 days are there. Every day data is held in a single file. Each day they store the data in a separate file. So you want to generate a monthly sales or weekly sales. Let's say weekly sales. Every week, per month, 4 weeks are there. For each week, they store the consolidated data in a single file. Okay, so 4 into 1, 4 files. 4-week data are available in 4 different files. Okay, and if you combine these 4-week data, if you append these two things, you can get the 1 month data, right? So monthly data, a file. Sometimes, right, what in the case of append, the single file, for a single file, the source will be more than 1 file. So in this case, 4 files, 4-week files. You are going to combine it together and then load it. This is what is append. So in the case of append, how it works here. In the case of append, how it works. See, in the case of append, all column headers from all the tables are appended to the resulting table. This is the one you need to remember it. In the case of append, all columns from all tables are appended to the resulting table or all file. For example, week 1, I have something like order ID and then quantity, units, and then the sale price, the sale amount. Okay, and then let's you have price column. But in week 2, what happened? The order underscore ID they've given. The column names are not same, but here they mention QTY. The rest of the columns are same. The order is also okay, but the column names are different here. But as a domain expert, since we are working in this project on a long-term basis, we know very well these two represent the same thing, but only thing is the naming convention is different. In this case, what will happen is, in both the files, all the columns will get included, which means the quantity, unit, sold, and sale amount, and then price. These are, column names are same. In addition to the 5 columns, this column will get added. 6 columns will be there. And then what will happen is, in the case of week 1 data, since we don't have a column called order ID, it will put null, null, null there. Okay, and then what will happen is, in the case of week 2, it will put null, null in the order ID. See, it will be something like that. Order ID, and then quantity, units, and then sale amount, and then price. Unnecessarily, it will put additional column here. This is what I said. All columns from both these files we will get appended to this final consolidated file. So in this case, what will happen is, the week 1 order ID is 1, 2, 3, but there is nothing called order ID column is available in week 1 file. It will put null here. Similarly, in the case of W2, only order ID column is there. It will put 6, 7 is the order ID, but whereas there is no column by the name of order ID is available here. So it will put null here. So hence, though it works well without causing the job to break, we need to make sure that the column names are similar. The column order doesn't matter. Even if the column orders are, here the order ID quantity is there. Instead of unit price, here you have sale price, but here you have units. Okay. In that case, what will happen? The sale amount data will go to the sale amount. Units will go to units. That's all. Make sure that the column names in all the files are same. Otherwise, it will create something like a sparse matrix. Yeah, adding more than 2 data. Yes, Prabhat, you are correct. You got it, right? So if you add more than 1 file, if you want to combine more than 1 file, we call that as a appending. Okay, appending. That is what append. So, but you need to keep in mind these things. Okay, what are the the things that you need to? What are the caveats, right? You need to remember these caveats. Okay, and fine. And if you have any extra column, for example, in the week two, in week one, week two, you have 5 columns, but in week two, you can have an additional column also. So let's say you have something called region, but the region column is not available here. So in that case, it'll get appended. So overall 6 column will be there, but for the first file, the region, it will not show any value there. This is not the latest PowerPoint. I asked our people to help me to get the latest one. Let me just open it here. Yeah, this is the one. Already I came here. Merging and appending data sets. Okay. Fine, you got it. This is how it works. Okay, I got erased, whatever I typed it. See, this is the one, the week one file, and then week two file, and week three file. You want to combine all these things. You append this data with this one, okay, and then you append this data with this one. Finally, you will have a single file, monthly sales. This one will have all the week one, week two, week three, week four data in it. That's all. But if you have the number of columns, doesn't matter. You can have any number of columns, but ideally speaking, make sure that all the files, all the column names are similar. Okay. And so in that way, you will not have any issues. And the column order doesn't matter. In the previous version, the column order mattered, but in the latest version, the column order doesn't matter. Okay. It automatically goes and load the data in the appropriate column, even though the order of the columns are not similar across the files. It works fine. Now you understood what is appending, how we can append the queries. Then the next one is you can append 2 files, or you can append more than 2 queries or 2 tables or files. And then the next one is the merge files, merging. Before we get in there, let's go step by step. And what I do is I just load the file here. Excel file. I just go here and append 1, append 2. In this one, it shows 2 sheets. I select only one sheet. I don't need both the sheets. And here, let me just check what is there here. Okay, I just select this one. I just rename this for the sake of our understanding. Append 1. This is file 1. Okay, week 1 or something like that. Or I'll write so, or I'll say week 1. Get it a Excel workbook, and here the append 2. If you see here, instead of date 1 is there. Okay. And what I do is I just select this value and then I load it here. But here we have only 4 columns are there. Whereas in that case, we have 5 columns are there in append 1. End of the day, append 1, append 2, we want to combine these two and then put it in a single file. I just go to the data tab view, and then we will take a look at what values are there in append 1 and append 2. Sorry, the week 1 and week 2, right? So okay, append 2, I did not rename it, it seems. What was the name I gave it for the week two? Did I give week? Okay, let me do one thing. I'll just give it a try. Append two, right? I think I clicked cancel. Here I just select it and then click on load. Foreign sales, yeah, it gives the foreign sales, right? Okay. And this is the one is my week two. First, we'll take a look at these files. Week one, what data is there? We can do it here. It's a product, sales, currency, date, location. Here I have 5 columns are there. This location column, is not available in week two. But here we have used the date column as a date, whereas here I have used the date column as date one. In the real-time scenario, you might tend to get the data files in this format. So a lot of time we will spend, we spend a lot of time in fixing this kind of formatting related issues, all the things. We think, everything we schedule it, everything is working fine. We schedule everything, we test it, everything. But end of the day, suddenly one file, you will have some kind of column naming convention related problems will be there. So ideally, they should have given date here, right? So if I don't do anything, if I don't rename the column, what will happen is here overall 5 columns will be there. Since we don't have the location column here, so these 5 records, it will put null, null, null here. So what I do is I'll just show you. I just select home. In the home, you will find append queries. Don't select append queries. Instead, you select append queries as new. When I select the first one, what will happen is it will combine these two, week one, week two, and then it will show the final outcome. But if you want to refer it back, how many number of records were there in week one, how many records were in week two, you will not have the data because the combination of these two only will get a single file. Okay, these two will get committed as a single query. So always use append queries as new, so that you are left with week one, week two as it is, so that you can check back whether the number of records in week two, number of records in week one, got appended correctly or not. So in that case, I just selected the second option, 2 tables, 2 or more tables. If you want to, use 2 or more tables, you can select this option. For us, we want to, for learning purpose, this is more than sufficient. Where is the week one here? Sorry, the first table is week two and the second table is week one. I just select week one here first. This one will create a new query. Apart from week one and week two, you have something called append one. You can rename it. And if you see here, 3, 6 column got created. So ideally, before loading the data, had I renamed this column as a date, all these date values would have got loaded here. Since the append one file as date column, and it did not have any date one column there, it will put null value for all the records that are relevant to append one. Append two, we have date one column, but date column we don't have it, hence it puts null. So what is the way out? Now I just go back to the week two, and then I'll just change it to date column. And if you go and see the append one, look here, automatically it gets changed, date. We don't have date one column. Now date one column got removed. All the date one data got loaded in this file itself. So now it is pretty decent, but location is causing problem. You check with your customer, do you need location? If they say no, then remove this column. So here you have 4 columns, and here also you have 4 columns. So here 5 records, and here you have 14 records. 19 records should be there in append 1. So in total, we have 4 columns and 19 records. Correct. It is pretty decent. So before you append the data, though the append option is available, it can append it blindly, right? Still, you need to take a closer look at each and every file and see the column names are used with the proper naming convention, right? If not, you need to fix it, okay? And then you can go ahead and append it. But the append will not take care of the duplicate records. Suppose in week 1, some records got repeated in week 2 file. So it will simply combine these two data, that's all. So hence you will have duplicate records. You need to go and check if there are any duplicate records, then you can remove it. See, look here, we have some remove duplicates. That option is also there. If you want to keep the duplicates, keep it. Remove duplicates, if you want to remove it, you can remove it. So this is pretty straightforward. Append 1. Okay, this append. Now you understood, right? So now I just call this as so fine. So before we jump to the merge, next one is the merge. Let us understand the difference between something called enable load and including report refresh. I just type it here. And if you see here, in the week 1 or any queries, okay. So for the sake of relevancy, I just selected week 1. We are going to discuss about enable load and report refresh. Open 3 files. 1 second. Close this one. Here, if you see now what I did, I just took week 1, week 2. All we need is last 2 weeks combined data. We combine the data. We don't need week 1 and week 2, isn't it? So after we come in, we don't need these 2 files. So in that case, we can disable this one. When you right click on it, you will find 2 options like enable load, include and report refresh. Okay, so in this case, what happened? You can disable the enable load option. When I click on, when I unselect this one, disabling load will remove the table from the report and any visuals that uses is time broken. So, okay, now the question is, I just click on continue here. Look here, the week 1, it got turned as the italic, right? The font type became italic. If you can see the week 2 and week 2, the font thing, right? This became italic, right? Since it gets converted as a italic font type, we can quickly understand this table will not get loaded again. See, when you click on file, close and apply, this file data will not get loaded. It will not get applied. Okay, because in the real-time scenario, week 1, if you see, you will have 25 million records. Here you have 25 million records. Your job is over. 25 million records, 25 million records, 50 million records. You combine again. Why you need to load this 25 million, 25 million, again 50 million? Why you need to do it, right? So now my job is over. Temporarily, I used it. Now I disable the enable load option. Now the question, what are the scenarios we can disable the enable load option? For example, in this case, the week one file, we have used it temporarily, right? So we used week one and week two temporarily. The reason is why we use week one, week two is we want to combine these data. Once you combine the data, you don't need it any longer, right? So instead of deleting it, what I'm doing is I just disable this option here. Similarly, week two, I just go here, right click on it, and then I just unselect it. So now if I click on this one will become the italics. Okay, so these two files, I used it temporarily. Okay, it's kind of a stepping stone for this file, right? So hence, once you combine these two data files, you don't need this. In that kind of situation, we can unselect or disable the enable load. And other thing is, other reason why we unselect the enable load is to check, removing this table, will that have any impact on my visual? Now if you delete it, what will happen? Let's say, mistake, you deleted these two files, but in these two files, you have used some columns in your visual. After you delete this, if you realize, oh man, I made a mistake. In this visual, I have used the columns from these two files. But if you remove it, what will you see? If you don't remove it, at least you go back and you can enable it one more time, right? You can enable it. Otherwise, you need to reload it again. Okay. So the second reason why we are going to disable the enable load option is to check, by removing these two tables physically, will it have any impact on my report? In other scenarios, if I want these two tables in the future, in the near future, you can leave it as it is here. Okay, you instead of deleting it, you can leave it as it is, but make sure that you are disabling the enabled load option or unselecting the enable load option. And when I click on file and close and apply, if you see here, all these things will get and apply changes, right? You need to fortnight sales only gets loaded here. Okay. Otherwise, what will happen? The week one file will get loaded, week two file will get loaded unnecessarily. You're already having less bandwidth in terms of creating the report. They told you very clearly within 2 days, but the volume of data is very high. And if you don't use the time effectively by disabling the enable load or unselecting the enable load, what will unnecessarily, it will refresh that data. You need to wait. It takes 2 hours for week one to week two, another 2 hours, right? 4 hours you saved now with this. And then if I go and click on refresh, for example, we have something called the report refresh here. If you see a refresh, if I click on it, what will happen is, and here M1, and here also it is not, only fortnight sales are getting refreshed. The other files also should have been disabled. Sometimes you wanted to enable this, but you don't want the at the time of report refresh, the place where I clicked, isn't it? If I click it here, don't refresh the data. Let it be there, week one, week two, let it be there, don't disable it. But when I click on it here, that point in time, you don't refresh it again. So in that kind of situation, we have another option called for example, I just go and enable load and include in for that, you only this one you can disable it. Okay, enable load, let it be there. And here the enable load, let it be there. And only thing is including report refresh. Only, there are situations, yeah, I need these two files, let it be there. But when I refresh the data, that point in time, don't refresh the week one and week two during the report refresh. week 1, week 2, look here, it is getting refreshed here. Let it be there. That is for while applying it. Okay. But this is your report refresh. When I click on report refresh, what happens is you can see here only the fortnight sales got refreshed. Though enable load got enabled, got unselected, not unselected, right? The enable load was not unselected, but we have selected, we have deselected the include report refresh. Okay, so only when you do the report refresh, don't refresh week 1 and week 2, right? This is what include report refresh. See, the enable load, when you disable it, including the report refresh also getting disabled. You don't, there are situations, right? You don't need to disable or deselect the enable load, let it be there. But at the time of report refresh, you don't, refresh the week 1 and week 2. So in that kind of situation, you can, disable. So now what scenario include refresh, report refresh can I use it, right? When can I enable or disable the report refresh? What scenario? The same thing. If you want the enable late to be active and only the report refresh, at the time of report refresh, only you don't want those files to be refreshed, you can disable only the include report refresh. But when you disable the enable load, both the report refresh as well as the changes whatever you applied, that will not get applied. Okay, in the Power Query Editor, whatever the steps that you carried out on week 1, week 2, it will not get applied. And then when you click on refresh, during the time of report refresh also, those queries will not get refreshed. In the case of deselecting the enable load. Correct? Or sometimes like, you apply all the steps in week 1, week 2. When I click on close and apply, let it be there. But when I click on report refresh, that point in time alone, don't refresh it. In these two scenarios, these two options are very much helpful.